Welcome back to yet another edition of the I Prefer the 80s and 90s Sports podcast where I talk about why I, Richard Harris, prefer the sports of the 80s and 90s to today. Today's topic, is an interesting one to me because we're going to talk about why the grass is not always greener. And in some circles, it's a sad day in football because Josh McDaniels was fired by the Las Vegas Raiders. And so was the general manager, offensive coordinator. They cleaned house. And they cleaned house because, someone asked me again, why do you do a show like you do? Why are you so harsh on this generation of sports? Why are you so, some people might say not fair to the people in the sports of this generation? And my answer simply has been from the start is I truly believe that coaches, teams, players, broadcasters don't have a clue. Don't know what they're doing, don't know why they're doing what they're doing, and quite frankly, they are the luckiest people in the world because they're the luckiest people in the world because they get paid millions of dollars to fail. That's right. Not succeed, fail. Very, very, very rarely do you have a situation in sports like we have today where you have a coach, where you have teams, where you have players who show their loyalty and teams allow them to stick around to show everything that they can possibly show to a team that they can't give to anybody else any longer. For example, LeBron James has changed teams how many times? Cleveland, Miami, back to Cleveland to the Lakers 4 times. And he has won championships for a couple of those teams. And he wasn't allowed to be with Cleveland. Well, he was allowed to be. He chose to leave Cleveland. Not only once, but he did it again to go to the Lakers. And you look at somebody like Greg Popovich. Greg Popovich is the poster child. Because Greg Popovich was in the boardroom. He was in position to make decisions for the San Antonio Spurs. And the Spurs got off to a bad start one year. And basically, the owner of the team and he decided that, you know what, we don't want to hear you talk about it. You get your butt down on that bench and you coach the team. And Popovich said, okay, fine, I'll coach the team. Now, most people who don't know, Greg Popovich used to be an assistant coach. I believe he was assistant coach for the Seattle Supersonics, where he worked under George Karl. And essentially, that's where he got his coaching chops from learning from George Karl, who was a great coach. But at the time, I had no clue who this guy Popovich was. I thought it was the funniest thing in the history of sports that a guy who was the GM of a team said, I just drafted Tim Duncan and I got David Robinson and I got Sean Elliott and I got this team, Avery Johnson, that if I can somehow, some way get them to buy into me, buy into my philosophy, I can make us a winning team. And guess what? They won. He is an anomaly. Now, people automatically say, well, Bill Belichick. No, Belichick was with the Giants, then the Browns, and then Parcells was like, I'm gonna bring him back to the Patriots with me, and he was supposed to go to the Jets, and then that didn't happen. And Belichick's like, wait a second, I'm tired of y'all telling me where I'm going. I'm going where I want to go, and I want to go stick in New England. So he hasn't been with the Patriots forever. He had other opportunities to go places and went and did all that stuff, and he's been with the Patriots ever since. Mike Tomlin has been with the Steelers. He's one of the longest tenured coaches in the NFL. My point simply is today's teams, organizations don't have a clue. Because what it is that players are eligible to make so much money that they essentially force teams' hands and essentially say, look, y'all going to either pay me $60 million or you're going to have to figure out a way to trade me because I'm worth $60 million. And the team was like, well, we have to figure out how to spend that $60 million and not just on one guy. And so they trade players. They let players walk. They let players leave because, sometimes starting over is the best thing. And so I find it hilarious what the Raiders did today, and I find it hilarious what the Raiders have done in recent years. Because this is what the Raiders did, ladies and gentlemen. The Raiders said to Derek Carr last year, we are going to reward you with your best friend. We are going to bring in Davante Adams. And Davante and you can reconnect, and y'all can do what you did in college and light up the NFL and lead us to championships. Well, guess what? Derek Carr and Davante last season had an unbelievable season. They were one of the top two duos, meaning not those two being a duo, not one of the top two, meaning they were like one of the best duos in football in terms of quarterback to receiver. They up there in terms of, production. They touchdown passes, yards after reception, all bunch of great statistics. Yardage, receptions. Davante had an insane year. The running back, Jacobs, Alabama Jacobs. Jacobs ran all over the NFL. But the Raiders stunk. Waller couldn't stay healthy. And I don't understand it. They hit hard in the NFL. They really do. They put you on your butt really, really hard. You pull hamstrings. You get hurt playing pro football. The Raiders have Renfro. Renfro was supposed to be, the Wes Welker for Derek Carr. Because Josh McDaniels when he was with Tom Brady in New England, he had his little slot receiver. He had his deep throwing receiver. He had all of his weapons, and he was trying to replicate that in Vegas. And he should have been able to do so. Because these players are good, if not better, than what he had with the Patriots. All of the Patriots receivers, every single one of them, they weren't superstars. They weren't superstars. They were guys who grew into becoming a superstar. And I don't understand why it didn't work in Las Vegas. You know why it didn't work in Las Vegas? Because players get hurt. Players get hurt. And essentially, that is what happened in Oakland. Waller got hurt. The offensive line got beat up. And then the ultimate thing that happened in Las Vegas, ladies and gentlemen, they got rid of Carr. They didn't fight it. Derek Carr was on some NFL's competition and showed why he is elite, why he deserved to get paid. And the Raiders let him go to New Orleans. So now you got Davante, who came to the Raiders to play with his boy, to play with his college friend. And guess what? Derek Carr's gone. Then they make Josh Jacobs go through hoops and hurdles. And Josh Jacobs is like, I don't want to play for this team. But they hate running backs in this league, which is another dumb thing about the NFL. And so he's forced to stick around and go through all the nonsense until he finally agrees to a deal. Like I said, teams, players, owners, broadcasters, they don't have a clue. Because at the end of the day, the team is always going to win. The team is always going to let you go or let you stay. That's as simple as it gets. They're going to let you play or let you not play. And so at the end, my man Jacob stuck around, and the Raiders stink. They brought in Jimmy G. Jimmy G and McDaniels go way back to his days in New England, and that was supposed to be a match made in heaven. And it didn't work. You know why it didn't work? Because the offensive line for the Raiders is like the Giants' offensive line. They couldn't block me, and I'm 55 years old. And we all sit around as fans, and we all sit here and we criticize what we criticize. We like what we like. We hate what we hate. We have expectations for things, and either they live up to them or they don't. But ladies and gentlemen, the grass is not always greener, because sometimes the reason why things happen is because it was meant to happen. It's like when you're watching your favorite television show, and the show is on for 10 years. The show is on for 5 years. The show is on for 12 years. And all of a sudden, the actors say, I don't want to do this no more. And the show is gone. And then all of a sudden now the actor can't get work because he had or she had that one niche that was them. Michael Richards is always going to be Kramer no matter what he does in life. No matter if he tries to do stand-up, no matter if he does movies, no matter if he does another TV show, no one is going to take him serious because we're always going to look at him and say, that's Kramer. And that's him imitating Kramer in a new role, and it don't work. Think about that for a second. Jason Alexander, Michael Richards, Julian Dreyfus. What have they done since Seinfeld? Jason Alexander's been on a couple TV shows, didn't last. Michael Richards didn't last. Now, Miss Dreyfus has been in a lot of TV shows on NBC, and they kept trying to plug her in places and trying to find her niche because she's really good. But we ain't seen how to hair of her since Seinfeld. Meanwhile, Seinfeld, he goes around, he does stand-up, he does little things here and there. He made so much money, he don't need to do anything, and neither do the rest of them. Look at the cast of Friends. Who's done anything since Friends other than Jennifer Aniston? Courtney Cox had the Scream franchise. Okay. Then she had the TV show Cougar, or Cougar Town. That didn't last very long. Unfortunately, Matthew Perry passed away. Matthew LeBlanc, nothing. Tried movies, nothing. Grass isn't always greener. So when you see a show that lasts 20 years on TV, NCIS has been on TV for now 19 years, something crazy like that, and still going. The public don't get tired of certain shows. They'll let you know if they're tired of certain show. They will just not want to watch. But NCIS has decided, all right, we'll just make more versions of NCIS. And NCIS Los Angeles just ended. They tried to remake MacGyver. That ended. They tried to make Magnum PI. It was on CBS, now it's on Peacock. My point simply is, sometimes when you're in a situation that has worked for you, it's foolish to get out of it. It's foolish for TV shows to cancel it. Especially now when the actors are on strike and the networks are like, we don't really need you. We can do this, that, and the other thing. We can go reality TV. We can do AI. I digress for a point. My point is, I don't understand these athletes today who just always think that because they are so now more empowered, that they know best. They may know best for themselves, but they don't, because they make decisions that are wrong. Whether it's good on paper, whether it's good, quote unquote, for them. Sports are about fits. And I don't mean fits that little kids have, tantrums. No, I mean fits. You have to fit. Because if you don't fit, then it's not legit. Don't mean to be corny, but it's the truth. And so many players from so many teams think that you just throw me on this team and it's going to work. It might work for a little bit, but it doesn't always work. Antonio Brown left Pittsburgh, went to Oakland, then went to Tampa Bay and got lucky that Tom Brady was like, dude, you're on my team now. I don't tolerate that nonsense. Let's go win a Super Bowl. And they did. And then he gets kicked off the team the next year. Kyrie Irving keeps trying teams, and now he's on Dallas. And they want to see how that's going to work out. James Harden is now on my Clippers. Oh my God. All these men who are so talented, they keep moving teams. You know why? Because they don't fit. And no, I'm not a person who thinks that athletes should shut up and dribble. I'm just a person who thinks that athletes need to get out of their heads that if a person is bossing you, if a white man is your boss, if a white man is making decisions for you, or if somebody's making decisions for you other than you, sometimes another person's eyes might see something that you don't see. Devontae came to Las Vegas. I'm going to play with my boy, Derek Carr. And we going to win. We in a tough division. We got to face KC, San Diego, and Denver. We can compete. Because nobody can cover me. And he goes. And it's a nightmare. Waller gets hurt. Derek Carr's gone. Waller's gone. Waller's on the Giants now. And he's invisible with the Giants. They had the trade deadline yesterday in the NFL. Washington let go some of its best players. Organizations, teams don't have a clue. In the 80s and 90s, the players played, the owners owned, the coaches coached. Trust is a tremendously undervalued word in sports. Because in the 80s and 90s, yeah, they took advantage of the players. But the players trusted that owners, coaches had the best interest at heart. Bill Parcells was not a hug me coach. Bill Parcells was smart to go up to his players and say, hey, Phil Simms, today I'm going to light into you to show the team that if you can be yelled at, anybody can be yelled at. And he would light up Phil Simms. Do the same to Lawrence. Lawrence, I know. Lawrence, I'm gonna light into you today so that I can let the team know that if you can be yelled at, anybody can be yelled at. Players trusted general managers. And I'm certain that there are several players in the history of the league that sit back and say they felt they were cheated. They felt that they were undervalued. They felt that they didn't get the right amount of money they were supposed to get, but they negotiated a contract anyway. But the NFL in the 80s and 90s was more fatherly, more people who looked out for you in terms of what's best for the team and what's best for you. Not today. Today, you come first. Team comes second. Today, you are the focus. Not the team. Screw the team. Team comes second. My health comes first. My money comes second. Then my play. And all those players that feel that way keep getting traded, keep getting moved, keep being a nuisance in terms of we got to hear stories about them constantly in the leagues. And it's not fun. And I'm not saying the players of the 80s and 90s were not problems. Lawrence Taylor was a major problem. But on Sundays he played. And was loyal to the Giants. I mean, I'll give you a great example. The 85 Bears. Supposedly the 85 Bears had two teams. Mike Ditka's guys and Buddy Ryan's guys. Buddy Ryan's guys was his defense. Supposedly Buddy Ryan wouldn't let Mike Ditka into meetings. Supposedly Buddy Ryan wouldn't let Mike Ditka say much to his defense. This is Mike Ditka's team, not Buddy Ryan's team. Mike Ditka was the head coach. The only time in the history of the Super Bowl where two coaches got carried off the field. One was the head coach because he won, and the other one was the defense coordinator because his defense beat the hell out of the Patriots. So football has always been dysfunctional. But through its dysfunction, if you got to win, nobody cared. You won the Super Bowl, nobody cared. And Ditka left the Bears and went to New Orleans, and Buddy Ryan went to the Eagles. Neither of them won anything ever again, but the Eagles was legit. Ditka got famous because he's the only coach, the team that traded all its draft picks for one guy, Ricky Williams. So it happens. Players and coaches, teams for years sometimes don't have a clue. But never nothing like this. And as I keep saying to you, the grass isn't always greener. Because sometimes where you are is where you should be.